Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 26 of our Exploring the CVerse series in TEW 2020. We're on to Pro Wrestling SAISHO, as that is next up. Again, 26 in now, so not that many left in terms of all the starting companies we're going to look at in this Exploring the CVerse series. So if you haven't checked out all the episodes before, you've got 25 to work with before this one. So a lot of a good look, I think, inside all these different companies, which again, I think the most valuable part of it is the comments. So be sure to read the comments on any of these videos you watch, because there are a lot of great feedback out there from players from all over, just really trying to give some good tips and tricks on how to use these different companies and what stands out the most with them. So let's talk about this company in particular. It is a tiny company, ranked 21st in the world, only have $12,500 available, so not a lot of spending money right off the start. But again, it is a tiny company, so not that surprised by that. 27 prestige, 22 momentum. And if we look at kind of the size, which we always do with these companies, look, let's be honest, we've kind of gotten into this group now where you have the tiny companies and such, and so there's not necessarily a lot of talking points for some of these, because I don't know that they're going to be the most intriguing if you're looking for a starting save. But hey, we want to be completists here, so we want to get all the starting companies, and so we're gonna give them their due here. But you're starting off at 26 in your home region, so really to get to small, you got to get to 35 there. So that's certainly doable to make that jump up to small. It feels like a pretty manageable path to do that. All right, the background on the company itself, if you're looking for kind of a narrative to work with here. So set up in 2002, kind of by PGHW, Pride, Glory, Honor Wrestling, to be the developmental territory. And then, of course, got close in 2014 once the new owner had decided that they basically didn't want to take on the finances of this company. But since then, been bought by the legendary Mito Miwa here. And, Mito Miwa buys it, and it's kind of now pushed instead to sort of get over that hump of not just being, it's looked at as a developmental territory and those kind of things, but really trying to kind of have the finances to move forward, develop young talent, not necessarily worry about spending all that $12,500 cash that you have to get all the big signings. So not that you could really do that anyways. Again, from a financial standpoint, may not make a ton of sense to do that off the bat. So that's kind of the background, almost a new path for this company. And, like I said, it is tiny, so you're really looking at a far road to be able to get up there with the bigger companies in Japan, but that can be one of the challenges if you want to look at it that way. So product, you're not going to find many surprises here. Wrestling as a sport is the core product name, so it's your usual puro style here, and it's really all about, again, good matches, putting those on, not worrying about a lot of angles. 10% split here on TV shows, event split, 100% matches, which, as we always say, and someone reminded me this earlier in the save. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I do this. But you do have that 15% wiggle room, so you can certainly add in an angle or two there if you wanted to. But you're going to be all about match quality. If you want to go through something and just book a lot of good matches, this could be a fine option, I suppose. If you want to do that, your match focus, in terms of the ratings, main event spotlight, we've talked about that before, the importance of that. So as always, just to kind of bring it up, I know I do it in this because sometimes it can be easy to forget, but 90% of the main event's rating, 10% of the rest, that's kind of how the rating is calculated. And then the angle focus is just the highlights. So again, if you look at that in the guide, the highlights is just really just the three highest angles and averaging those together. If you have less, then it's just the remaining angles that are used. So that's kind of a look at the product. As we said, you can go back and look at some of the other companies in Japan that we've done that have the similar style. There's not a lot different here. You don't have the face-heel divide. You don't have stables. You don't have managers, you don't have any of that, which I know doesn't really surprise anyone, just given where it is. The usual notes, this is a very intense style, so injuries can certainly happen. I think there's 27 workers, on the roster. So, you're working a schedule, which we'll get to here in a second, that can be pretty demanding. So it's always something to note when you're running this kind of company with a touring schedule. Yeah, it's you're going to have injuries and those kind of things. Kind of balancing that can be one of the challenges of this particular save. You got to have longer matches to get those world-class scores. Something else, the usual for this style and this product, you've got to have a still to show and a technical masterclass on every single show that you book. So that's kind of an overview of the product. Again, nothing real new here in terms of this. If you watch some of our previous videos on the Japanese company. So the event schedule, like I said, again, nothing new here because it is a touring schedule. And as I've said before, I think the best sort of insight you can find on the touring schedule is to go back through to the companies that we've covered, whether it's Burning Hammer, Pride, Glory, Honor, Wrestling. Look at the comments in those particular videos in this series, which you can find here on the channel, and see kind of there's been a lot of great sort of insight from people as to how they book their touring companies and those kind of things. You find a lot of great tips in there to kind of how to navigate that, whether you're doing the style of using multi-man matches and tags and those kind of things to build up to your main shows here that you will have once a month. Destiny Awaits is your season finale event for this company, as it's initially said here. That is in week 3 of July. So that is just something to note there. You do have a couple tournaments, which we'll discuss here in a second. That can be something fun just to kind of have as a theme. And that does tie into the titles, because if you look at it, we do have the A1 Grand Prix here, and that is your single elimination tournament to crown, the best of the best. Again, it's sort of pushing as the finals, always a must-watch bout. So if you like booking tournaments, I do. It's something that could be appealing to have this on the schedule. You've also got a tag team tournament. Same situation. You could kind of play with this narrative here that you bring in outside talent. We'll look at the tag division in a second to help the numbers, kind of put all the numbers together, again, depending on how many, but 8 teams, 16 teams, however you decide to do it, but kind of pushing that no team from the outside has ever gotten past the first round. So that's a story you could work with if you wanted to push it in that route. The other 3 titles, pretty much your normal set. This is your Destiny Championship, your main title here. As you can see, sort of the strong lineage pushed as a very serious championship. The Ride the Tiger title, it's just I don't know why, I just think that's a great name for a title. It's your secondary championship, so you can compare that to any of the secondary championships you want in reality, and then of course the tag team championships with that. So you can build something out of the Grand Prix perhaps to go along with that. All sorts of stuff available there. So a little versatility in terms of that. All right, let's talk about some other things. As usual, there's not a lot to get into over here because there's just it's a tiny company and there's just not a lot of note since you don't have any developmental or any of that kind of stuff. But what you do have is the relationship with PGHW. And so you do have a talent trading agreement. So, you can negotiate to trade different talent back and forth if you'd like with Pride, Glory, Honor Wrestling, which, as I've said before, I really like that roster. But it's, just a matter of what you think you could do and what they accept in terms of your proposal and those kind of things. So, as I said, 27 workers on the roster. So if we look at the creative section, your franchise players here, Makioka and Kita are your 2 to start off with. I mean, they're your top stars. If you kind of look at each, again, sometimes it can be easy to sort of look down here in the entertainment, but you don't have to really worry about that here. A brawler who's got good brawling skills, hardcore skills. So, one of your main champion at the moment. You can just kind of look at the skills and compare them to that. And so, like I said, these are your top 2 stars based on the creative section. And so they have their strengths, have things they have to improve on, but 33 and 28 here in terms of their ages. So, yeah, 2 people you can build around, as we said, kind of a company perhaps focused on developing its current talent versus going out and being able to find a lot more, probably with some of the financial issues too. One of your next big things here, Yutagawa, and you kind of look through the stats. I'm not particularly impressed by this one, but it's only 23. So you know what? Only have 3 years of experience, 23 years old. We got time to improve in these areas and these skills. So that's always something to look at. Good group of, I think, interesting group of hot prospects here. It is worth noting, I looked through the roster. Miyake here is the person with the highest star quality. I don't think there's really anyone above 80. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the only person on the roster that is above 80 right now. So 24 years old, that's something else. If you want to lean into this company narrative of really pushing your young talent and developing them into top stars, multi-year project you're probably looking at, but you do have some stuff to work with here. I do think it's an interesting group of hot prospects, again, led by Miyake here as the top one, but all of these kind of have their strengths and things that they still need to work on. So you can look through that and get a good idea of where they are. The usual stuff through here. You don't have to really worry about talking the talk and that kind of thing. You certainly have a lot of showstoppers and ring generals on a roster like this. You've got some workers. You know that for sure. I did want to look at the tag team division, though, because you are doing the tag team tournament. So you need a division where you can put some teams together. As I went down through this, some teams inexperienced But you've got, I think, a good group to work with here. I mean, how many of this? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My counting, 6, 9 tag teams right here. So if you're trying to put together that tournament, like we said, you're probably going to have to maybe bring in some outside talent, whether that's through trading. You sign some different people as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's a nice starting group of tag teams to work with. And as we always say, too, with these touring schedules, it's nice to have a lot of tag teams because you're going to need that probably when you're booking some of your shows from a touring standpoint, when you have all these different combinations to work with. So I think just the necessity of having different tag teams, and you can go into the background in all of them and look at the experience and those kind of things and how their bios sort of tie together. But you've got a lot of different stuff here. You've even got the Diamond Dogs for all you Ted Lasso fans out there. But so that's kind of a look at Pro Wrestling SAISHO here. Again, I think it's a tiny company. There's a reason why it's the 26th we've done in the series. It's not necessarily one of the companies that you're just looking at and in terms of the rankings and those kind of things. It's here kind of when this group of others that we haven't really gotten to yet, we will get to in the series. But so yeah, I mean it's the Puro type style, and there's a lot of different things you can play off of if you want to just book matches. It's kind of probably a decent one to use if you're just trying to learn the touring schedule, in all honesty. And you don't want a lot of pressure necessarily. Maybe, a nice starting point. If you're like, hey, I just want to jump into one, it may not be as intimidating as some of the bigger Japanese companies where you're just trying to figure out the ins and outs of a touring schedule. So, hey, maybe there's some appeal there for certain people when it comes to playing this as a save. So, like I said, be sure to leave your comments, any feedback you have on playing with this company in this version or previous versions of TEW. And again, I appreciate that. As always, hit that subscribe button. I always appreciate that as well. A lot of great stuff on the channel right now. Got a lot of saves going on, WWE, AEW. We also started the CVerse save, the first on the channel with TCW. So if you watched the TCW video in this Exploring the CVerse series, that is the company we chose to start our first CVerse save with here on the channel, and we're several episodes into that. And so be sure to check that out as well, and we'll continue to go through the CVerse here as we explore all that it has to offer in the starting universe in TEW 2020. And that is why we will continue along on the next episode as we will go back to the United States for a look at Grim SoCal Wrestling.